Section 12 of a Traveller's Narrative, written to illustrate the episode of the Bab. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. A Traveller's Narrative, written to illustrate the episode of the Bab, by Abdul-Baha Abbas, translated by Edward Granville Browne. Section 12. In short, formerly, in all provinces in Persia, accounts and stories concerning this sect, diverse and discordant, yea, incompatible with the character of the human race, and opposed to the divine endowment, passed on the tongues and in the mouths of men, and obtained notoriety. But when their principles acquired fixity and stability, and their conduct and behaviour were known and appreciated, the veil of doubt and suspicion fell, the true character of this sect became clear and evident, and it reached the degree of certainty that their principles were unlike men's fancies, and that their foundation differed from the popular opinion and estimate. In their conduct, action, morality, and demeanour was no place for objection. The objection in Persia is to certain of the ideas and tenets of this sect, and from the indications of various circumstances it hath been observed that the people have acquired belief and confidence in the trustworthiness, faithfulness, and godliness of this sect in all transactions. Let us return to our original topic. During the period of their sojourn in Iraq, these persons became notorious throughout the world. For exile resulted in fame, in such wise that a great number of other parties sought alliance and union, and devised means of acquiring intimacy with them. But the chief of this sect, discovering the aims of each faction, acted with the utmost consistency, circumspection, and firmness. Reposing confidence in none, he applied himself as far as possible to the admonition of each, inciting and urging them to good resolutions and aims beneficial to the state and the nation. And this conduct and behaviour of the chief acquired notoriety in Iraq. So likewise, during the period of their sojourn in Iraq, certain functionaries of foreign governments were desirous of intimacy and sought friendly relations with them, but the chief would not agree. Amongst other strange haps was this, that in Iraq certain of the royal family came to an understanding with these foreign governments, and, induced by promises and threats, conspired with them. But this sect unloosed their tongues in reproach, and began to admonish them, saying, "What meanness is this, and what evident treason, that man should, for worldly advantages, personal profit, easy circumstances, or protection of life and property, cast himself into this great detriment and evident loss, and embark in a course of action which will conduce to the greatest abasement and involve the utmost infamy and disgrace both here and hereafter. One can support any baseness save treason to one's country, and every sin admits of pardon and forgiveness save that of dishonouring one's government and injuring one's nation." And they imagined that they were acting patriotically, displaying sincerity and loyalty, and accounting sacred the duties of fidelity, which noble aim they regarded as a moral obligation. So rumours of this were spread abroad through Iraq Arab and such as wished well to their country loosed their tongues in uttering thanks, expressing approval and respect. And it was supposed that these events would be represented in the royal presence. But after a while it became known that a certain of the sheikhs at the supreme shrines were in correspondence with the court, yea, even with the king, were in secret continually attributing to this sect strange affinities and relations, imagining that such attempts would conduce to favour at the court and cause advancement of their condition and rank. And since no one could speak freely on this matter at the court, which is the pivot of justice, whilst such ministers, aware of the true state of the case, also regarded silence as their best policy, the Iraq question, through these misrepresentations and rumours, assumed gravity in Tehran, and was enormously exaggerated. But the consuls general, being cognizant of the truth, continued to act with moderation until Mirza Bozorg Khan of Qazvin became consul general in Baghdad. Now, since this person was wont to pass the greater portion of his time in a state of intoxication and was devoid of foresight, he became the accomplice and confederate of those sheikhs in Iraq, and girded up his loins stoutly to destroy and demolish. Such power of description and strength of fingers as he possessed, he employed in making representations and statements. Each day he secretly wrote a dispatch to Tehran, made vows and compacts with the sheikhs, and sent diplomatic notes to His Excellency the Ambassador-in-Chief at Constantinople. But since these statements and depositions had no basis or foundation, they were all postponed and adjourned, until at length these sheikhs convened a meeting to consult with the consul general, assembled a number of learned doctors and great divines in the mosque of the two Kazims, upon them be peace, and having come to an unanimous agreement, wrote to the divines of Karbala the Exalted and Najaf the Most Noble, convoking them all. They came, some knowing, others not knowing. Amongst the latter, the illustrious and expert doctor, the noble and celebrated scholar, the seal of seekers after truth, Sheikh Murtaza, now departed and assoiled, who was the admitted chief of all, arrived without knowledge of the matter in hand. But, so soon as he was informed of their actual designs, he said, quote, "I am not properly acquainted with the essential character of this sect, nor with the tenets and hidden theological doctrines of this community. Neither have I hitherto witnessed or perceived in their demeanour or conduct anything at variance with the perspicuous book, which would lead me to pronounce them infidels. Therefore, hold me excused in this matter, and let him who regards it as his duty take action." Now, the design of the sheikhs and the consul was a sudden and general attack, but, by reason of the non-compliance of the departed sheikh, this scheme proved abortive, resulting indeed only in shame and disappointment. So that concourse of sheikhs, doctors and common folk which had come from Karbala dispersed. Just at this time, mischievous persons, including even certain dismissed ministers, endeavoured on all sides so to influence this sect that they might perchance alter their course and conduct. From every quarter, lying messages and disquieting reports continually followed one another in uninterrupted and constant succession, to the effect that the deliberate intention of the court of Persia was the eradication, suppression, annihilation, and destruction of this sect, that correspondence was continually being carried on with the local authorities, and that all the Babis in Iraq would soon be delivered over with bound hands to Persia. But the Bābīs passed the time in calmness and silence, without in any way altering their behaviour and conduct. So when Mirza Buzurg Khan failed to effect and accomplish the designs of his heart by such actions also, he ill-advisedly fell to reflecting how he might grieve and humiliate the Bābīs. Every day he sought some pretext for offering insult, aroused some disturbance and tumult, and raised up the banner of mischief, until the matter came nigh to culminating in the sudden outbreak of a riot, the lapse of the reins of control from the hand, and the precipitation of men's hearts into disquietude and perturbation, and their minds into anguish and agony. Now when the Bābīs found themselves unable to treat this humour by any means, for strive as they could, they were foiled and frustrated. And when they failed to find any remedy for this disorder, or any fairness in this flower, they deliberated and hesitated for 9 months, and at length a certain number of them, to stop further mischief, enrolled themselves as subjects of the sublime Ottoman government, that thereby they might assuage this tumult. By means of this device the mischief was allayed, and the consul withdrew his hand from molesting them. But he notified this occurrence to the royal court in a manner at variance with the facts and contrary to the truth, and, together with the confederate sheikhs, applied himself in every way to devices for distracting the senses of the Bābīs. Finally, however, being dismissed and overwhelmed with disaster, he became penitent and sorry. End of section 12.